issues of water handling.
Welcome back. This is KBC News Check. Thank you so much for keeping us company. Today we are talking about the drought, and more specifically in the northern frontier, where drought has really ravaged the counties. 29 counties in the country in dire need of food, the worst drought in 40 years, and especially when it comes to the Horn of Africa. And I have two honorable MPs here to discuss that in regards to all the challenges that come around with drought. Even security is one of them, and also some of the partnerships that are in the region to just help and alleviate the problem. We have Honorable Salah Yakub, who is the MP of Fafi in Garissa County, and Honorable Hussein Abdi, who is the MP for Tarjab in Wajir County. Gentlemen, karibuni tena. Another thing I've seen, I think a week ago, we saw some of the international players and the government issuing pellets to livestock just to help them survive the droughts as we wait for the rains. Some of these measures, as you have rightly put it, we are talking about two different counties, and some of the things that could be happening in some parts and are not happening in some parts. A good example is the livestock offtake, because some counties would argue that yes, indeed, some government has done some things to ensure that we offtake some of the livestock to just alleviate some of the suffering by the pastoralist communities. How is that program, and have you seen it in your constituency, and how is it going to help in the long term as we wait for the long rains and also as we look for a lasting solution? I've
seen them in my area. Actually, the day I was there on the weekend, it came, I think, 2 lorries of food pellets, animal feed. But that's very small. I think it's less than 1,000 bags, and we are talking of 200, 300 or 1 million animals. I'm not sure the figures, but that's just 2 million, and actually they gave to 3 centers and it was over. The responses are there, whether it is food ration supply, whether it is animal feed supply, whether it is the cash transfers, whether it is medication for malnourished kids, because they're also giving some malnourished nutrients, nutrition foods to schools, to hospitals for malnourished kids. The responses are there, but they are weeny, tiny, small, reactionary, whatever. So we need, that's why we are saying we need an upscale of whatever you are doing. We are not doing what you are doing is not good. It's a priority, it's a short term, whatever, but we need an upscale. If you are distributing 1,000 pallets, it should be to the tune of 20 to 30,000 pellets per month. It should be. If you can't do that, then what you're doing is actually, it creates more conflict, because when the lorry came to an area called Warable, I was there was scramble for 50 bags, total scramble.
And in a few minutes it was done.
And Darwinism can take effect. Darwinism, the fit survive. The one with the biggest muscle take maybe 3 bags, you know, and a mama who has small goats often cannot get. But if the numbers were big, then maybe those can be, you know, can be attended to. So the responses are there. We have seen it. I'm not saying, I'm not denying it. Very little, not late, because we're in the area. I can say it was late. We want more to be provided and more areas to be covered. So those things are good. The animal feed, that's why we said there must be a strategic animal feed reserve, just like the strategic grain reserve. So the government doesn't just at that time inaanza kununua tu some pellets. So if this thing yearly in the budget of the national government, there must be a small portion, let me 0.01% of the budget goes for strategic grains and strategic animal feeds. Then the livestock are covered, or strategic fertilizer. You know, these are 3 components: strategic grains, strategic fertilizer, strategic animal feeds. A component which are there to help us, the farmers, the pastoralists, and the entire Kenyans. You know, so those responses are there, but the policies and just the way you said, there's a lot of bureaucracy involved. I remember I had to do the transportation pay for the transportation of the animal feeds and whatever. But we need those resources to be upscaled to a level which is acceptable to Kenyans. As much as we understand the pocket of the government or the basket, we wanted to upscale. I don't know which ball they're going to kick, but that's the issue.
Yes, you wanted to add something in regards to pellets. Have you seen them?
Yes, some have reached my constituency. As he said, it's not enough. But then I feel the pain of those who blame also goes to, like the executive now. They really have a challenge in terms of resources. We know this drought is probably felt in those counties that we are naming, but there is an economic drought across the country. So even the national covers probably may not be having much. There is fatigue also across the globe on donor support. So I also feel the pain of those who were leveling blame, on. But I think whatever happens now, let's do what we can do, but let us plan for the future. Like he said, the government planning, there are different levels of government, the county government. I am of the opinion, or I advise the county governments to prepare these feed reserves so that they give incentive to those who are growing grass or fodder. They're given some money or some incentive or palms or boreholes or such things they're given so that when they grow, the county government probably even buys from them. They create like silos, big silos.
Actually, when we were on the break, you did talk about
the PPP. Yes, yes.
Public-private partnership.
Partnership, yes. I was thinking of the water aspect of it. The current government, led by Honorable William Samoei Ruto, is thinking of probably creating big dams and probably privatizing provision of water. Like Nairobi Water Company gives us water in Nairobi here, and we pay for it. To cut short this blame of always saying our pumps are like this, we need borehole, we need dams and all these, probably certain number of people with money from across the country or even some beyond the country can be invited to handle issues of provision of water. That they handle those mega dams, they handle the boreholes, they handle piping of water. If it is water tracking, they can do it, but we should also be organized in terms of how we keep our animals and all that. So we pay for it. Even now people pay for water. Sometimes very much expensive. Like if you go to Kibera and where I live, the Kibera person pays a lot of water, a lot of money for water. Even in those places, the ordinary man pays a lot of water, considering the times he uses to trek and all the effort that's involved in getting that water. So if water can be provided efficiently by some private public partnership, I think that is the way we should be going. That's the way. This proposal by the current government, where they're saying this partnership in terms of managing water, should be welcome. Should be welcome. And the environment, like I have said, necessary amenities to be available, like the roads, electricity, so that even the pellets can even be manufactured there. But now with no electricity, you cannot do much. So the environment to be made comfortable. Then this proposal by the government in terms of managing fodder, partnership and public-private partnership, starting also at the county level, where those who are growing fodder are given incentives, and the county government prepares big silos where they're going to store this, so that instead of buying this thing from far, these things are available, quite available within proximity of those pastoralists. I think this is the approach we should be going.
And Honorable Salah, a very valid point that Honorable Bane has brought about here in terms of the public-private partnerships.
Yes,
and there's something that you raised when we were beginning, talking about if we better the infrastructure, we need to better the infrastructure in the northern frontier counties. And just as he has said, that would even better that, because if there is power, pellets could be done. We can sink more boreholes, we can dig more water pans. Do you think this could be a lasting solution?
Well, it is. His Excellency Ruto has been elected because he had a lot of good vision. Very rosy, dreamy. You feel that that's another cloud.
Novel.
Yes, very noble ideas. One thing is those ideas, but surely the implementation of those things, will they see the light of the day, is a question again we ask ourselves. Some of us in the government, because we are elected in that party,
yes,
both of us. He said failure is not an option. But when you see those things and we see our pockets, is it going to happen? It's something. But if it happens, it's very rosy, dreamy, slumbery. Actually, you feel very sleepy to hear those things. The issue of the one he talked yesterday of 100 dams is one way to go about it. But is it going again to be a thing which is going to put a lot of debts on our neck, and the dams are not created and not done, because it's not the person who will be on the ground to do that? Will it go with the business as usual, or if it's done, will there be water again? Is another. Those are issues which we are thinking about. The PPP issue of privatizing partnership with water is a welcome move for our area. For me, of priority important is the gallons of water drained to the ocean. A way we can tap that water to go to the hinterland. Because from the river to the farthest point in my area is just 200, to Somalia border. It's 200 kilometers. The drought you are talking of is actually within that 200 range in my area. So doing a canal to that is the same. Balambala, the next constituency, from Balambala to Libui, for example, the farthest, across 3 constituencies, is 300 kilometers, 400 kilometers. I had him saying we will resuscitate the Rahole Canal. Is that canal going to go up to Libui? Because once you've done that, it's agriculture, it's water, it's all those things, you know. If you do the canal in our area, we are pumping petroleum from the port to where? To Eldoret. Sindio?
Yes.
We are pumping it from the port to where? Kisumu. You know, and that's one commodity used by very few of us, you know. And here we're talking about a commodity used by majority of Kenyans.
Actually all.
Yes.
Water.
So can we pump water across Kenya from a river, the rivers in Pokot to the hinterland of Pokot, from a river in Samburu to the hinterland of Samburu? You know, can we do that so that we have water kiosks, we have dams, we have all those things? So you should capture that, you know, and you know, health matters actually. If you are a doctor, our body is composed of what? 75% water.
71.
You see that? 75%. 75% of water. So if that water is dirty, it means you are unhealthy. So if that water is clean, you're not caught by disease. So the issue of universal health and everything starts from what? Lack of clean, fresh water. And not everybody can buy a bottled water like me. You see that? That's why infection is of high rate in the area. So he has to stop. The issue of roads is something other, I can say is another level. For me, my area, a large chunk of Kenya, because 80% of Kenya is Asal, is provision of water. Once water is provided, agriculture will come in, our livestock will be modernized.
Food security.
Food security. You capture water, you capture food security, you capture health. It's subsequent events of activities which are interrelated and can be done. So he should be focused. As much as I know he wants to achieve a lot within 5 years or 10 years, and as much as I know there's a lot of obstacles involved in that, in terms of resource mobilization, in terms of those who are going to do it, in terms of the patience of Kenyans. Am I patient enough for him to roll out the Hustler Fund? And if it funds, ikishindwa kunifika, what is my reaction? You know? Am I patient enough that those 100 dams are going to be of use to me? Am I patient enough to 140 billion they were saying for road infrastructure? Is that road, one of them, the first one's going to be the road from Garissa to Liboi? Is the question I'm going to ask. Or is going to prioritize the one to, you know, us ourselves are not patient. So there are a lot of intrigues involved in this. But we welcome everything he has said is something which is achievable, rosy, dreamy, and it's going to take us to cloud 9 if it happens. Yes.
Yes. Do you hold the same sentiments? And especially, we look at also food security and climate change. I do remember the head of state when he was commissioning the Tiba Dam. He talked about he will endeavor to construct at least 100 dams. And looking at some of the counties and what they're experiencing right now, it's quite a pity, because looking at Turkana, we have a whole lake there that has not been utilized to the maximum level that it can be. Looking at Tana River, the river itself, we even have a county named Tana River, but they are also grappling with lack of water, lack of food, lack of grazing fields. And we have a number of water sources. The River Tana, over 90% of it drains in the Indian Ocean, just like Mheshimiwa has talked about here. Is this one of the welcome solutions that we may have? Because at the end of the day, we're not only looking for food for our livestock, we're also looking for food for us.
I think it's a situation of a paradox of plenty amid scarcity, or scarcity amidst plenty. I think we are not working our heads well, and I feel the proposal being put forward by His Excellency the President William Samoei Ruto and his government in terms of addressing water, like the dams, those mega dams, I think those are going to be welcome and they are going to be helpful in that provision. That coupled with the PPR, the 3 Ps, public-private partnership on water management, and also even other aspects like livestock feeds. I think that is most welcome, and that will most likely work. But I think we should not be limited to that. We must also have, at county level or at regional level, we must also have further solution to these challenges we have. The unfortunate part is most of us probably move to Nairobi, come to this side, and we're only going there for political majority of us. Yeah, I think that should not be the thing. Let's have a homegrown thing. We are the government, whether at the county level or the national level, we are the center of it, and let these brilliant ideas and how money is channeled to implement them come from the leadership. And the national leadership will also be of help to us. I think some of these proposals are most welcome, and I think they'll go a long way in reducing the challenge that we have.
Honorable Salah, looking at what the head of state did immediately after taking over power, is that he came up with a subsidized fertilizer program, of which he hailed it as one of the solutions to ensure that we have food and adequate food. And other than that, Kenyans are quite elated that at least we are able to get fertilizer at a subsidized price, to the point that we will be able to provide a lot of food. And one of the issues that would also be the same as diversifying, for lack of a better word, diversifying the fertilizer. We have seen cases where the companies have even started to mix fertilizer, because we import NPK, CAN, DAP right here in our own soil. I've seen Elgon, Kenya do the blending of fertilizer to ensure that we benefit from all the macro and micro nutrients. Do you believe this is a solution that in the fore end would alleviate the issue of food scarcity in the region, and especially in the ESO region?
It was a welcome move for the president to subsidize, to give a directive on fertilizer that day, because our economy is at deathbed, and our economy is largely supported by agriculture. So if agriculture fails, we have failed. We are no longer a tourist nation, we are no longer an industrialist nation, we are no longer a livestock producing nation. We are exporting. That is, the main basket of our economy was based on agriculture, and when that sector dies, we die a natural death. So he knew the disease, and he's trying to cure it. And he see that I'm not a farmer. My area is not a farm. Although we have the river. Agri-farmers. They are pastoralists. We are trying to do that. But every economic activity in the country actually is knee-jerked by government policy. So by him introducing a policy of now saying we need fertilizer, there will be sprang of industries or mixing plants that will help create job and other things. It's indirect, whatever. It's the same way when he says housing, we are going to do housing, there'll be a lot of industries which sprang up in terms of motofali, cement, bows, all those things, other industries. These are called, so activity of the government knee-jerks an economic activity. So it's a welcome move. It's a welcome move. And then just like I say, everything we do has a negative impact. For us down Kenya, especially those people downstream, the River Tana, because all this farming is done along upstream Kenya. We believe that that's an area now infested by cancer. The whole of that population actually is dying of cancer, and the cancer is actually a digestive disease cancer, digestive cancer. You either have a lip cancer, a throat cancer, a stomach cancer, a duodenum cancer, a pancreas, up to the colon. So it has something to do with what we eat. You see that? So there must be, our arms of government responsible for what we eat must be also there. Some of them are saying maybe it's the fertilizer being, drawn to the river, going downstream. That's the water we are drinking. That's the water our lives. I don't know, just a hypothesis. So I want the government, KEPS and whatever it is, whenever we are bringing something, we are importing something, or we are producing ourselves, the structures of government, the arms of government responsible for what we eat, what we dress, what we see, must be also very vigilant. We don't just import fertilizers from Russia for the sake of, doing whatever. But it's a welcome move. If our sector of agriculture dies, we die. So we actually blindfold ourselves on the issue of cancer now. Let's first eat.
Okay, Honorable Bare, looking still at climate changes, partly to blame for what we're experiencing right now, and looking at what the government actually is doing in some of the mitigation measures, do you believe modernization of the farming that is happening in the northern frontier could help in terms of the new breeds of animals which can a little bit withstand the harsh terrains in the northern frontier? And now the president did give a thumbs up to the importation and the farming of genetically modified plants in Kenya. Do you think this could alleviate the drought that we are experiencing in the country?
I think trying a new thing is always good, because the situation we are in, we are not comfortable. Things are not right. So trying a new way is probably could get us out of the challenge. The issue of genetically modified foods, I am not an expert in that field, and there's a lot of propaganda or a lot of bad sentiment about it, but I cannot justify or go against it.
What about the animals? There are some breeds that have been developed that can at least withstand the harsh terrains and the harsh climatic change that we have experiencing in the
I think the breeds we have, the local breeds we have, are sufficient enough. Well, if other breeds that probably have more meat or such things can be developed and they are not harmful to our health, that's welcome. But I believe the breeds that we have can withstand, because they've stayed there over time and they have acclimatized themselves with the environment. So, but if a better breed can be brought, I think that's quite okay. But generally, what I am only saying is that this climatic changes is across the globe. There are people who are living close to the sea, and with the ice melting, the towns are being submerged. So when we are being affected by drought, there are places where water is submerging towns. So it's across the globe. And I think we need to do our bit in tackling it. Like how we are keeping livestock, how we are living, how we should be planting more trees, across our regions by changing our lifestyle, and seeing this as important, even if it doesn't help us now, in the future and the generations to come should benefit from that. Because if we don't take those steps, I think we will have a worse global environment. So I think we should begin at a smaller level. Everybody should take it as a responsibility. Like in myself, I expect we have quite a number of people. Why I agitate for national grid and power connection is that I want to reduce the pressure on firewood in my area. I want to link up with the Ministry of Energy and Environment. Probably get to a certain level where certain businessmen can partner with them, like this JIC or something, so that at a reduced price, this gas thing can be introduced, so that people can reduce pressure on wood and charcoal and such things. This is what I want to do. If some people can also use electricity to cook, that pressure is reduced. Then we engage those who are engaged in bringing firewood and charcoal. We engage them in a different thing. If we can employ certain number of young men who do this work in forest gardening, or even replanting the local vegetation, they're spreading those seeds and all that, or some of them even plant seedlings and all that. They engage in such things. I feel we will reduce pressure on, and we will, to a certain extent, we will reduce the deforestation that happens, which cumulatively contribute to worsening of the climatic situation or the weather situation across the globe. So this is the approach I'll wish to take.
Salah, I would like to also pick your mind on the same, bearing in mind that those are very good measures that we can use, and especially in the northern frontier, and achieve some results. But somebody would also argue that most of the communities there are pastoralist communities. So conservation of the environment, and in one day you're 100 kilometers, the second day perhaps you're 50, 20, you just move from one place to another. This could be a hindrance in the conservation effort, because we need to conserve the environment that we are living in to avert some of the issues that we have seen brought about by drought.
If I talk of the Somali community, Somali community is a community well known for conservation activities. It's only now that we became poorer, we are becoming anti-conservationists. Why should I say that? For a Somali community, to hunt an animal is a taboo. If you're a hunter, I will not give you my daughter.
Okay.
You see now? So it's a cultural attachment to that. If you're a charcoal burner, it's difficult for me to give you my daughter.
Okay.
You see that? So our culture is enshrined with conservation activities. It's only that now, because we are becoming very poor, that our livestock is mekufa. We came to town, we have no jobs. That's why you see us someone was doing cultural, doing charcoal burning, those activities. So these are things, it's just, resuscitating or reinjecting the indigenous concept of cultural conservation to the Somali community. So we will accept conservation. We realize it, we know it, It's actually, the Kenya government has been doing policies, not this government. Policies geared towards anti-conservationists in our area. You know of 1996, where Herola antelopes were translocated from our area, around 300 of them. Why? They were taken to Savo. We know of the 1980s, all the herds of elephants crossing the rivers. KWS doing that, by then it was game. I don't know what Mr. Wildlife, crossing the river to Tana side. We know Rahole Reserve was the largest invested lion den. It has all been transported across the river. That's Kora Reserve now. So all our animals have been taken. So we are not anti-conservationists, we are conservationists. But the government policies towards us have not been better in us. You see that? So we will accept anything that is geared toward that. We welcome, we help. It's a community naturally conservation, so we'll help them. It's just a matter of telling them this. On the issue of GM, if I may go back to that.
Yes.
I think Kenya must borrow a leaf from South Africa. South Africa has done GM whatever, and the effects is now known. What you see, South Africa is an obese nation. Very obese, very big, bulkinous people. That is, some of the scientists are saying, is attributed to GM. Even the US is one of the most obese nation. It's junk food and all those things related to GM. We have not gone to that state. Our maize grow within 6 months. It's harvested within 6 months. Our onions is done within 3 months. Our peas is done within 3 months. Everything of us, within a season, within a year, we have 3 harvests. So why should we go for a GM? Why should we fasten? Harakisha life zetu, while we can do it within a very short time. So I don't think GM is an option on the table now for us.
You're opposed to it?
We are opposed to it because we are already a sick nation. So bringing things which are foreign, which have have a case study in other countries of escalating health problems to our area is not something of paramount is, and we are not in need of it. That we can do our own things through the natural way. So I think the government should take a back seat on this. Let's do our natural methods. See if it's going to work. We can feed our population with the natural method. If I'm doing harvesting in a year 3 times, I don't need GM. On the breeds you say, it's not the GM breeding. It's artificial insemination. Looking for breeds which can better our life. Go for the Angus bulls in Namibia, which weighs up to what? 700, 1,800 pounds or 900 kgs. Bring that, semen. Give it to the pastoralists here. Do them. It's a desert. Namibia is a desert area. But the bulls they have for beef, you can't imagine what they have. These are the things we should bring in. Bring artificial insemination of breeds which are of help to us, but not, a genetically concocted semen. You see that? So we can do a lot. As he said, our breeds are already better. It's just a matter of making it best.
Better, or making them best.
Yes. So that one we can do it. I think that's my take on GM. And
there's something you wanted to add.
Yes, I wanted to add on this conservation. Yeah. For me, I feel a majority of the environmental destruction is coming from a prompting from the towns. Those who are cutting trees, those who are cutting fencing poles, those who are cutting or bringing charcoal, all this is a prompt from the towns. It is being used and transported to the towns. So if we can handle the populations that live in the towns, in terms of educating them, providing gas at certain prices that they can, at least for introduction, they uptake the use of gas or electricity, the pressure on the forest or the vegetations out there will be reduced. And those who are involved or engaged in bringing this are also diverted to a certain or to a different engagement. I think we will have certain rest or a reduction of environmental negative effects that is coming out of using charcoal and also using those poles and shrubs for either construction or for making chalk. This was for choka. If we can reduce that, I think, and probably we make some measures of creating certain seedlings or giving incentive to certain people, building in local vegetation, planting them, creating seedlings about them and spreading them. I think we will reduce destruction to the environment. This is one thing. The issue of the pastoral communities being naturally conservationist, I think that is lately challenged by the economic situation. If people are poor or a hungry man has no commitment. So we must create an avenues of engaging people on employment. Like we've said, let's better the environment. How do we better the environment? Let's give amenities that will spur economic activities. Like if we have electricity, somebody will engage in welding activity, of metals, or artisan jobs, and he will employ others. Somebody will start a yogurt factory because he has power now, he has water, and there's a way he can transport them to the rest of the country or in other markets. So let's create that environment that will spur different economic activities so that these people can be engaged or employed in a number of economic activities that exist. If we don't do that and people are unemployed, they will forget about being conservationists. They'll kill, in Wajir you find wild animals walking in the town. Giraffes walking, at night you see them just close to your houses, some of them grazing on the trees that you've planted. The gazelles are there. They're just within the town because they know the people are not killing them. But when people become hungry, they'll kill all those. So we must create an environment that will engage these people so that this cultural conservation nature or background can be enhanced. Short of that, people will be killing this and people will be spoiling the environment.
I'd like still to pick your mind on the GMOs because Honorable Salah says we need to take a back seat in regards to that, but there are arguments that at least we can provide more food, we can even provide more fodder, because at the end of the day, the animal feeds will still be made using the same things, the same GMOs that we have. I'd like to pick your mind on the same.
I think, as I've even said before, I am not quite conversant on this issue of GMO. And I think it's good to speak from a point of scientific knowledge. But I know, as he said, he has shown or he has alluded to America or other countries being the most obese communities because they're eating GMO food. Probably has more knowledge. But for me, I wouldn't be but I will be cautious by saying probably our breeds are good, or as he pointed out, the breeds from Namibia, which is also a desert country, if you can use them, utilize those semen, and provide enough fodder to whatever that we have, the breeds, the local breeds we have, I think we don't need to go for a strange thing or scientifically engineered thing. Let's just keep the local thing that we have, but we feed them well so that they give us maximum yield.
And still on conservation and the climate change, the COP27 is coming next month. Actually, it will be in Egypt, the COP27, where all stakeholders will be talking about how we intend to conserve the environment, to avert the climate change that we are currently experiencing. If at all you were to give your input in terms of what you would want, because at the end of the day, what happens is that developed countries, they are the one leading in terms of greenhouse emissions and carbon dioxide, and unfortunately, they do not go hungry. But us, Africa, we have low gas emissions, but unfortunately, because of the climate change, we are on the receiving end of drought each and every year.
That's the politics of the whole thing. They are the polluters who are consuming the pollution. And now that they're polluted enough, they're saying, let's go back and, bring string measures on climatic, greenhouse emissions. We don't see carbon dioxide subsidies. We wanted maybe to chip in. For us now, our economy is developing from agriculture to manufacture, most of the developing world. it's moving on from simple agricultural aspect to manufacturing and trying to reach the level they have reached. So the thing is, where is the ethics or the moral on this? Shall we stop and say that, okay, us, we'll just live with this because these guys have already polluted the skies and the ozones and whatever. Let's say we will not move our economy up and just deal with it. So if we are to come to a compromise solution, is that they have to pay for the pollution they have already done. They have to pay for enough money. One of the ways they can do is that they offload the debts. We are indebted to the Western countries. So the African countries will say, okay, were we to satisfy any of these treaties, which will, curtail our progression in terms of industrialization. So one of the ways you are going to pay, you have not paid us for colonization, you have not paid us for slavery, pay us for the pollution, at least pollution. Now that we're on the table together, we're talking like men and men, relieve us from the debts of all the debts you have given us, or at least a percentage. So the African countries or developing countries should go there with an ethical ground that, and for us, we are not going to stop doing manufacturing, whatever it's going to take. Like Chinese have said, no, I have to develop first. And the stance they have taken. So are we going to take that stand, or we are going to say no? That's the thing. For me, it's an issue of polluter pays. They have to pay. For I to ratify any ratification of any treaty concerning climatic operation. So African countries should go there as one voice, not African actually, the developing countries, and say that third world countries say that you guys, the Western, you have to pay, the Russians, you have to pay, the Chinese, you have to pay us. One of the ways is relieve us from the debts.
Wow.
That's the thing.
And that's a very interesting way of looking at it, Mheshimiwa, because he's saying that we don't need any money, just offload some of the debts that we have. What would your message be, given an opportunity at the COP27 this year in regards to the climate change, and more specifically, your message to the West? Because we are actually suffering from what they have already done.
Well, I think we all, whether in the West or wherever we are, we have to realize that we are living in one globe. So whether I am the person who is causing the majority of the challenges, or I am in the receiving end, we all have to realize that we are living in one planet, and we must protect. As he said, I think the developed countries have contributed more to the climatic changes or erratic climatic changes that we are facing now. But the West is not one. The West is not one, because like what's happening in Ukraine, some are like Russia, what is doing to Ukraine and what the rest are also doing. The West is not one. So they're not taking even a common position. And as what I am seeing is, there is a verse in the Quran which says human being will eventually distract himself with his own hands. This is somehow...
And that is what we are doing.
This is what we are headed to. That what Russia is doing, what Europe is doing, what America is doing, the manufacture of these bombs and these weapons, war technology and all this, is eventually, is not making... They are not taking common position on these issues of environment. And in fact, whatever position we make as the third world countries, as you said, is just but a proposal, but we are not at the same level. Because if they are incoherent, if there is no concurrence among themselves, how do you give a position? But I think let's not be tired. Let's just say that we are living in one place. They must be made to understand. Let's shout, loudly and say you are causing the problem. But I know with commercial mind in the world, with this capitalistic mind where we're saying let's amass more and more, individually and also as countries, facing these challenges together is not very easy. But I think let us shout more and more and say, well, you're burning the bridges. You're spoiling the only planet we're living in. And as I'm supporting the idea of confronting major countries who are owing a lot of debt, that they should offset this debt, so that we don't also we can also take up our sides, our part in reducing or contributing or putting more money instead of paying those debts. We put money in terms of conservation, and checking this climatic or what contributes to this negative climatic change. I think his opinion is quite valid, and I think we should all support it.
Mheshimiwa, you're from Wajir, you're from Garissa. Some of the conservation efforts that you're seeing in your county or even in your constituency, so as we may try to avert a much deeper problem, because unfortunately we are just keeping on polluting the environment, and the West are not doing any better. What about your constituency? What are some of the conservation efforts that you have seen? Because we really need to conserve the environment if we have to alleviate some of the issues that we are seeing happening to the air.
In my constituency, there is always a clash between those who are engaged in charcoal and firewood and the local administrators. The local administrators and the local herders will want the climate, the environment to be taken care of. But these people, they are driven by the need to sustain themselves. So they go collect charcoal and all that, burn, the little vegetation that exists there to get firewood for the people who are living, the dwellers in town. So there's always a clash between those who are against this business and those who want to live on this. So the conservation efforts that are in my constituencies, we are trying to check those who are really destroying the little vegetation that exists. That is always on the table. There are quite a number of people who are always taken to the police, who are being taken to court for destroying the little vegetation that exists. This is one effort. Two, there are a number of people who are in a small scale involved in creating many seedlings and planting more trees. Quite a number of young men or young girls. But then, that does not sustain them well. But then there's effort to that extent. There are people who are involved in planting and also protecting whatever that's available already. Yeah.
Now, Mheshimiwa.
For me, there's small activities going on, as he said, on conservation. A lot of groups now are taking up the issue of conservation and trying to do some green zones, creating green zones. There's also a program by Kenya government in collaboration with World Bank and UNHCR called K.D, which was meant to fund host communities which are hosting the refugees in Turkana in our area to the tunes of millions. The large percent of that money goes for conservation aspect. Grass are planted, trees are planted, all those things. And the community is trying to do. But when there's no water, you can't do those things in the hinterland. It's just done across, along the river. But one of the biggest problems we are facing is that most of the indigenous trees in our areas are disappearing. One of the reasons it's disappearing is because of a species, an exotic species brought to our land called madenge. It's called prosopis. I don't know if it's now actually an investing weed across the country. I've seen in Baringo it's there, and in Samburu it's there. And that tree competes for water resource and nutrients with the other tree, the indigenous tree. So when it grows here, in a vicinity of around 10 kilometers around that tree, you will not see an exotic tree. And it's a weed. You can't plant, and it has no any other use. So one of the things I would have liked the government to put a measure on that is how to eradicate this tree. It's blocking the river, it's blocking the houses, it's eradicating, it's competing for resources for other plants, especially the indigenous tree, which were meant to conserve. The acacias now, if you go around in our area, acacia has now gone down. I used to remember in Garissa, just within the vicinity of Garissa, we used to go and get fruits around that places. Now there are no fruits and everything. Wild fruits, wild berries and those things, because of this tree. And it grows very fast. It's brought from California desert. It's of no use. Actually, it's a hindrance to plant growth, afforestation, farming, even livestock. If you see the ngamias now, hawana teeth. Because wanakula fruit zake, the tooth falls. The same with donkeys. So I don't know how it's a menace across the country. So as we try to conserve, that's why we only have green zones in a certain area. We do a green zone, water it. If we do it outside, this other tree will kill it. So that's the biggest challenge in terms of afforestation and reforestation. A challenge of eradicating that tree, at the same time bringing back the indigenous tree, which are resistant to drought, resistant to lack of water, all those issues. So that's my take. But otherwise, as I said, the community is a community of conservationists. It's only that my friend has said is that now hunger and all those issues coupled with unemployment is forcing us to come to town and make a living from anything that's possible.
Yeah.
Yes.
And away from that, the northern frontier is largely blessed with some of the resources that we do not get in the lower parts of Kenya. A good example is the sun, the scorching sun. In as much as it is not helping out in terms of the drought, it's power that can be harnessed. We've seen some nations harness this power, the solar energy and the wind energy, especially when in the northern Kenya that is in plenty, which not only can help in the conservation efforts, can also help in giving jobs to our youth. Just like you say in matters welding and stuff, we do not need to always spend power to electricity. We can use the wind power and also the solar power. What do you think?
I think, as you said, there's a resource. That resource exists. That place is not short of resources. But one, resources. Two, leadership that change, channel things into that direction. And also the necessary funds, probably to kickstart. That is what is lacking, and also knowledge to a certain extent. Knowledge also has to be there. So I think all those need to be put together so that, as you said, the sun and all that is available there can be put well. I think it goes with leadership, and I think that's why we will work towards there.
I think, if I may just add to what my friend has said, is that it's true, there's sun and wind. And the Ministry of Energy, I can remember, has done a survey on potential wind tapping areas and solar areas. We have been blessed that we got to a 50 megawatt solar plant in Garissa, and that's actually what brought the grid to our area, because that's to be connected to the grid. That's the only way we got the grid, and we want that grid to be extended to Wajir and the rest. I know one of the areas which was earmarked as potential for renewable energy is Habaswene, because of the wind. It has a blend. It's one of the areas is in Wajir. So there's a lot of solar. I know there's a program of COSAP funded by World Bank, which is doing mini grids for certain areas. It's there in paper. It has done in some areas, but in my area I've not seen. Maybe in there is the same. So we want these programs which are funded by World Bank in terms of energy, save energy and those things, which is multi-billion in itself. And it's meant for ASAL areas and those areas, whatever, done by different government entities like REREC and KPLC and the ministry itself, to take effect, so that at least the places which cannot be reached by the grid, a mini grid can be done, so that at least solar can provide it, as I said, in those areas, because it's 40 megawatt things, I think 40 kilowatt and things like that. I don't know, small projects, but at least it can light a school, a village, and a hospital in that area. And that's what we want. But there's great potential for solar and energy in our area. And that the government should research. I know the Jubilee government has not been, the former Jubilee government, actually the last 2017, 2022, not much program on extension of grid has been done. So we want the government now to extend the grid to our area, so that at least we are safe and covered in the national programs. Yes.
And gentlemen, there's something that you will also agree with me, is that there are a lot of illegal firearms or unlicensed firearms in the northern corridor, and mostly in the pastoralist communities, that those guns do not really, to the people who have them, give them a sense of security. But it has been an issue because of the conflicts in terms of water and pastures, which have led to the death of many people in your regions.
Well, I think illegal arms are across the country, even in Nairobi here, in all counties, perhaps, and also specifically with the pastoral areas, largely because they're having it as deterrence. In my area, I don't see anybody robbing anybody using those guns. I don't see anybody probably raping a girl using, a gun. It's more of deterrence, because it's an expansive area. They move about with their animals, and they do not, state presence is always limited.
Namushua, still in matters deterrence, there have been loss of lives.
Yes.
So it cannot just be like the nuclear deterrence we have between Russia and the United States. Is that people are dying in the hands of these firearms? I
think in comparison, the firearms that exist in the pastoral area, especially in northern Kenya currently, and the death that is as a result of those is very much limited. If I speak for my constituency, I don't remember any case of, in the recent past, of somebody either robbing or somebody, taking somebody's things.
What about disputes in watering grounds and grazing fields?
Even then, the chances of people using that is very much limited because they are on the border.
Do you support it as a leader?
Well, unless because the NPRs, there are people called NPRs or civilians, reserve soldiers who are providing security. Some of them are just ordinary Kenyans, good Kenyans who are providing themselves, and they're given the license to have this gun so that they can protect the area. Until the day when President Uhuru was approached over this issue of, these Al-Shabaab groups and all this, he said, you people take care of yourself. He is the commander-in-chief of the armed defense forces. And he said, you should take care of yourself. Until the day we get firm and enough state presence and security, I am not of the view that we disarm those people. People will just come from across the border and take all our livestock and probably come and loot everything that's in these towns. It is the presence of those guns in the hands of the private people who are not using to rob, but just for deterrence, against people coming across the borders. That's why we are safe. We are not safe largely because we have because our policemen and our military men are limited and the land is so wide. So I am not of the view that these people should be disarmed straight like that. I am of the view that it should be registered. That somebody's gun should be registered, who has it, and they report to the chief and all that, it's known. So that we use it as a reserve soldier for our country. Like in my place, quite a number of times Al-Shabaab were killed, and they're killed by the ordinary people. It's not the mainstream soldiers who are killing them. Those who are chasing them and killing them and defending our borders are the ordinary NPRs and ordinary people. So these people are defending our country and they're not using it to rob the next person. What I am of the view is it should be registered and they let me report to the chiefs and all that and the local leadership.
Honorable Salah, I would like to pick your mind on the same.
If I compliment what he says, we are of the view first we should not scrap gun ownership. The coin has two sides. If it's going to be misused or if it's going to serve the purpose which it was meant for. And the purpose why we are owning guns in our area is for safety purpose. If the government machineries could have worked well, I don't think somebody could have bought a gun for 200,000. He could have as well bought for 3 camels. You see that? But he knows he is not safe in his home hard while there's a contingent of police officers there. Because of laxity or negligence, or maybe they don't have the right machineries to defend them. So this guy takes the law by his hands. That's why in the US or in in Sweden or Norway, whatever it is, somebody's house has only one door. It doesn't have 3-4 locks. It only have a simple lock. But in here we have the door,
metal
the
doors.
grill, metal door, the grill, the comfort and gatekeeping community. Why all those? The fear that you are not feeling protected, your life is not protected.
And also, Mheshimiwa had raised a very pertinent concern. Yes, you're grazing 200 kilometers away from the nearest police post.
Yes.
And there could be insurgents from either border.
Even if you are close to the police post, how fast are they going to respond to any attack? As he said, actually the main reason in our area, the guys he was talking about, Al-Shabaab on the table, are deterred by the presence of gun owners, not the presence of police. Actually, when they know in an area that there are around 7, 8, 9 guns owned by individuals, they will not come that area. But if they know that in that area there is no gun, it's a safe haven for them. They
more or less, it's a deterrence.
Deterrence, actually.
All right. In a minute.
We want the government not to stop that. We want the government. We want, for my sake, I'm advocating for a controlled, politicized, ownership of guns. The government knows who owns this gun, how many bullets does it have. They supplement the security apparatus. So that the security apparatus, in one police station, 1 or 2 police officers can man, while we have 100 NPR who are not paid.
All right.
So that's what we are going for.
All right. In a minute, could we have a lasting solution to all of this? Because it's year in, year out. What do you like the new regime to focus on so that we may not be in this hole again?
I think challenges are going to be there in our lifetime. It's always going to be there. These doubts are going to be there. Climatic change are here with us and we will live with it. As of now, I expect my government to take certain steps. Like in my constituency, I expect a number of boreholes to be drilled And this is where I want our military to come out from the camp now so that they can also respond to these emergencies. I expect a number of military or NYS rigs to be in my constituency and drill certain boreholes. And as we go forward, I think the leadership from the county led by the governor and the MPs and the senators from Wajir, Mandera and Garissa should come together and address this issue once and for all so that we don't always cry.
All right. Mheshimiwa.
With my case, actually, the government, I support the president policies. The policies are good if only he implements those policies. The dams he was talking of, provision of water through PPP, strategic reserves for green, strategic reserves for feedlots, animal feeds, strategic reserves for fertilizers. Then I think we are going a step forward. Mine is we cannot come back here in 1 or 2 years again talking of a quick response measures. It's an abuse to our nation. It's a shame that we are talking 60 years down the train. We are talking of something which could have solved Kitambo Kabisa. Countries, developed countries, even Laos now, which has been back behind us in terms of development, they don't talk of drought now. They have gone a step forward, and they're one of the countries which are hit by droughts. A very small country, very poor, intellectually lower than us, have gone very far in terms of response to those things. So we want, now that we have a very bright young man in the helm of the government, we want him, those policies he said, he should not be distracted. That keep to that policies, do what you are going to say. I'm sure we will not be patient. Kenyans are not known for being patient, but wherever he should believe in his God, he should do at least even 50 or 60% of that. He will get even 10 or more years.
All right, well said. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And we have come to the end of the show. We have been talking about the current drought in the situation, and the situation a little bit worse in the northern frontier counties. And I was joined here by two legislators from two counties, actually. On my immediate left, we had Honorable Salah Yakub, who is the MP of Fafi in Garissa County, and we also had Honorable Hussein Abdi, who is the MP for Tarjab in Wajir County. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And in this, we are all in this together. I do remember more than 10 years ago, we had Kenyans for Kenyans, where we were contributing something to help. So in any way that you can be able to help a fellow Kenyans, kindly do. And the conservation efforts still continue. COP27 is expected to bring about a lot of issues in regards to climate change and the environment. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Ben Njue, and Anwangeshi has been our sign language interpreter for this live cast. We are now giving rise to Tamrini and Kurunzi Mashirani. Thank you so much for watching. Gentlemen, thank you so much.